Hey guys, it's Ettore. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to ask you something. What's your story? We all have one, and sometimes it takes the right space and a little guidance to bring that story to life. That's why I created the Ink and Authenticity Men's Creative Writing Workshop. It's a unique space for men to explore their identities, reflect on personal experiences, and use writing as a tool for self-discovery. Whether you're an experienced writer or have never written a word, this workshop is for you. Join me and other like-minded men on this journey. Visit authenticityroad.online/workshop to learn more. Thanks. And now on to today's episode. Losing your cool, flying off the handle, blowing a fuse. No matter what you call it, we all do it now and then. Get angry. In today's episode, we're taking a deeper dive into this topic that touches every one of us. But this isn't just about the moments when we've seen red. It's about understanding the roots of our rage, navigating our emotions, and ultimately finding freedom in the ways we respond to the world around us. We're joined by James Clemmons, a Marine veteran who's turned his personal battles with anger into a beacon of hope for many. James is the founder of Freedom from Anger LLC, an organization dedicated to helping individuals, especially those who are incarcerated, to manage their anger, reduce stress, and lead healthier emotional lives. Through his work, James has seen firsthand the transformative power of self-awareness, acceptance, and the courage to seek help. We'll explore the physiological responses our bodies have to anger, the societal impacts of unmanaged rage, and how, to paraphrase something James said, managing anger doesn't mean eliminating it, it means understanding it. So whether you've struggled with anger yourself or know someone who has, this conversation is an invitation to look inward, to challenge our perceptions, and to discover the freedom that comes from truly understanding and managing our emotions. So let's get on the road. Welcome to the Authenticity Road podcast.
We started this podcast to share our stories and hear from others about their adventures in men's work.
Join us on the journey to our fully authentic selves, emotional healing, and the meaning of modern masculinity.
Here on Authenticity Road.
Hello, and welcome to the Authenticity Road podcast. I am Ettore, and this week on the podcast, I am delighted to be joined by James Clemmons. James is a Marine veteran and the founder of Freedom from Anger LLC, an organization focused on providing an educational experience that will empower participants with the knowledge and skills necessary to overcome their struggles with their behavioral health. He specializes in anger and emotion management, stress reduction, and alcohol and drug education, and he works with incarcerated individuals. He is also the host of the Freedom from Anger podcast. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. So in addition to what I said in the introduction, what else would you like folks to know about you?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty good. I've spent the past decade of my life working with a whole variety of individuals, trying to help them become the better version of themselves. I've just got a passion for it, as we all do. We in our younger years, we go down the wrong path, and then once we figure out the path, then we want to try to teach people from going down the same path. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Did your experience in the military encourage you to pursue this? Was that part of how you came up with the idea of starting Freedom from Anger?
Well, actually, Freedom from Anger started from COVID. Yeah. Me and an associate of mine, we worked together for years, and we weren't allowed to actually do our job because we had to be isolated. And then we kind of realized that it had all these people kept calling hey, we need anger management, we need this. And then we really noticed that a lot of people were not doing it very well. At the most, you would see anger management class. They would pop in the movie Anger Management. It was kind of brushed off. It's like no, it's like we can do this better. So, with COVID happening, we're like, hey, let's go virtual and just kind of see where it goes. So we've been blessed to work with people in Canada, Hawaii, Ireland, like all over the map. So we want to really put out a product there that's very affordable, and you might need additional therapy. That's fine, but education goes a long way in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings up an interesting point. Since COVID was really the kickoff of Freedom from Anger, what were you doing pre-COVID? Were you still working in the field?
Yeah, I was working with incarcerated individuals, everything from anger management, domestic violence, alcohol and drug treatment. You kind of name the program. I was probably teaching it at some point. DUI classes,
Yeah. So why the focus on anger?
Well, when we got together, we really realized that a lot of the people that we were working with, there was this underlying just anger that was always there. And then we kind of thought, okay, well, if we can focus on this anger, then all these other things, it's going to be a whole lot easier to treat. And that's where we decided to, hey, let's focus on the anger. Let's focus on the frustration that these people have, and just really try to hammer that home.
Yeah. Was this mostly men, I'm assuming, that you were working with? Or was it a mix of men and women?
It's both.
Okay.
Probably 75% men, but we did work with women, but still that that anger was there. And it's kind of an aha moment. We're like, let's attack the anger and let's just see where it goes.
So tell me a little bit about anger. What are some of the things that you've learned in your time working with folks in anger management and encountering anger in various populations?
There's a lot of myths surrounding anger. We think that, all anger is bad.
Okay.
In reality, anger can drive you to, move to the next level. It can drive you. I mean, it can be a positive force. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, what we tend to do is use anger in a negative space, and then it brings us down. A lot of times, when it's okay to be angry, it's an emotion. We're all going to have it. It's like you're not going to get away from it. But the whole goal in anger management is managing, not elimination. Right. And a lot of people, they come to us like, teach me how to not ever be angry ever again. Well, guess what? Can't do that. But managing is the whole point, and realizing that it's a psychological, it's a physiological thing that happens. And we really emphasize the physical part, because everybody gets angry, everybody reacts in a different manner. But if you're in touch with what your body is telling you, it's going to tell you right from the jump, hey, this is not good. And then that's when you have to really emphasize those techniques to kind of back yourself away from that.
Yeah. So what are some of the physiological bases of anger? Where does anger come from?
Well, I definitely stole this from Dr. Siegel, but he says if you make a fist, it's your thumb, you make a fist. Okay, there's your brain. Okay, so your thumb here is the amygdala. It's basically your smoke alarm. Hey, things are going sideways. I don't like this. Boom, smoke alarm goes off. And what that's doing is activating the primitive part of the brain. And that's when you get all the adrenaline, the cortisol, all that stuff. Boom, fight, flight, freeze, all that stuff. But when that happens, this front part of your brain, that's what separates us from the animals, that prefrontal cortex, it goes out the window. He calls it flipping your lid. That's when we say things. That's when we do things that we normally would not do. Same as if you're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. You operate when you lid flipped. You sober up, you're like, whoa, why did I do that? That was stupid. Same thing with anger. So we have to realize when our lid is being flipped. And like I tell a lot of people I work with, hey, when you're feeling that, probably the best thing you can do is keep your mouth shut because you can't take those words back. Know that, hey, my body, I'm feeling this way. I need to kind of back down.
So I get a stimulus, I get a trigger. I react, and I can react by giving in to what my body's telling me, or I can make a different choice. Is that essentially where this heads when you're talking about anger management?
Oh, yeah. It's always a choice. And that's what a lot of people do not like to hear, that it's a choice. They made me mad. They did this. They are just being they. That's the stimulus. That's the trigger. We're constantly bombarded with all these triggers, but how we choose to respond rather than react. React's quick. React's dirty. It's, off the cuff. But having that insight to really focus on, okay, this person's pissing me off. I can either choose to go down this path, which is, it might feel good in the moment, but long term, not so much.
So how does this relate to fight, flight, and freeze responses?
Well, like I said, it's going to happen. That lid's going to be flipped.
Right.
Your body's going to be rushed with all these emotions, all this adrenaline, cortisol, you name it. But realizing that, hey, this is actually going on. A lot of people, get hot. Like when I'm upset, my blood pressure goes through the roof. It feels like top of my head's going to pop off. And some people might start sweating. I mean, it like I said, the physiological part is huge. And like I said, being really in touch with your body and okay, things are not going good right now. Okay, so best thing for me to remove myself from the situation rather than go into those reactionary, boom, I'm going to come at you. And, depending on where you look, they say it's about 90 seconds. So 90-second rule is, hey, if I can distance myself for 90 seconds, my body will process all these extra chemicals that have been put because that amygdala, that smoke alarm went off. Then I can come back to the situation and try to find a better alternative. And I tell people it's very easy to get distracted these days. Like just look at your phone or something. Just remove yourself
Right.
rather than stay in that moment and stay amped up and all that stuff flowing through your veins.
So if I want to say, all right, look, this is all physiological. It's a chemical reaction. I don't have any control over this. Not my fault. They did this to me. You would say, just take 90 seconds and walk away. And in 90 seconds, you'll process all of those chemicals and you'll be able to make a better choice. Is that pretty much the key?
Yeah. Like
is that easier said than done?
Yes. Yes. And that's what I tell people. Like, it's way easier said than done. Like to disengage, for 90 seconds. A lot of people, like, I'm hot even after those 90 seconds, but, you have to ask yourself questions, like, get your brain functioning. Like that front part of the brain is going to be deactivated until you ask questions, actually really get the motor going. And one of the greatest questions you can ask is, like, what can I do, me, to be okay right now? Not what somebody else can do. Usually we go to well, if so-and-so would just shut the heck up, then I'd be okay. Nope. What can you do to be okay right here, right now?
Right.
And then to expand on that, okay, right here, right now, and in the future. So you kind of learn from what's going on here. So yeah, it's definitely easier said than done, but just taking that little time out, taking that little break, and just kind of getting your mind operating on something other than the situation.
When someone comes to you for anger management, is that kind of the first thing that you teach them?
Usually the first thing I teach them is, it's definitely the physiological stuff. Hey, it's okay to get angry. Hey, it all happens to us. Nobody's perfect. Right. But I really go down through the ABCs, which if you go to any anger management class, probably for the last 50 years, they teach the ABCs. You have the activating event, which is like the trigger. That's a popular word these days, trigger. Right. Then you have your belief, and then you have the consequence. So, okay, activating event, that's anything and everything that you come in contact with. You're constantly being bombarded with triggers. But it's your belief system that's really the focus that we really try to focus on. Is, okay, what's your belief system? What's your values? Are you trying to put your values on somebody else? Your belief system to this, and what's the consequence? Are you getting a negative consequence, or are you getting a positive consequence? And that all comes from Dr. Albert Ellis, the godfather of CBT, and his REBT, Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy. And that's really the hard part, is really challenging those beliefs. Like somebody should never do this.
Okay.
So if I have that belief and then somebody does it, then boom, I feel justified. I feel righteous in attacking them. But they're just being themselves. Right. They don't have the same values or belief systems that you do, but everybody should, or everybody must do this. And as Dr. Albert Ellis would say, and he was an interesting character. If you're not familiar with him, look him up. He's got a million books out there. He's long past, but he talks about we're often busy shoulding all over ourselves, and we're busy masturbating, like should, must. So
Right.
yeah. So when we get caught up in that, then that's when we kind of fly off the handle.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Ator again. Sorry to interrupt the show, but I want to tell you about something I'm really excited about. If you've been listening for a while, you know how important it is to take time for self-reflection and growth. That's exactly why I've created the Ink and Authenticity Men's Creative Writing Workshop. This is a 6-session online workshop designed specifically for men. Whether you're looking to explore your identity, challenge societal expectations, or simply find a creative outlet to process your life, this workshop gives you the space to do that. It's not about being a professional writer. It's about telling your story, digging deep, and connecting with others on the same journey. Each session is filled with prompts and discussions that will help you understand yourself better, all in a supportive and open environment. So if you want a way to write, reflect, and share, join me for Ink and Authenticity. Just visit authenticityroad.online/workshop to learn more and register. Now let's get back to the show. So what are some of the other things that you would tell somebody who's coming to you for anger management?
Well, my big three, which I've taught to, whether it be alcohol and drug treatment, domestic violence, anger management, is my big three is one, love yourself. 2, forgive yourself, because we're all human. We all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And 3, which is the hardest, is forgive others. Because we carry around so much baggage, so much. And I was actually doing a consultation with an individual not too long ago. And that last one, he could not wrap his mind around. And needless to say, he did not seek our services. I was like, hey, man, you got to let some stuff go. And he was just like, nope, I'm not letting it go. I'm like, all right, I can't help you. But that, just allowing people, giving them the grace to be human and have faults. And we put that on everybody. We expect them to be perfect when we're not perfect. We're humans, but yet,
So of those big three, I want to break those down because they're amazing. They're great. And I also believe a lot in what you just said. For you, when you're teaching someone to love yourself, what does that mean? How do you express that? How do you say, because it's easy to say you need to love yourself, but what does that look like in real terms? What does that mean? When I tell you to love yourself, what does that really mean?
Well, to me, loving yourself is really being in touch with who you are. Mm-hmm. It is really, okay, well, if I love myself, then, it can be something as simple as, if I love myself while I'm eating this cheeseburger, I know I'm going to feel bad afterwards. Right. I probably should lose a few pounds, but loving yourself is like, okay, well, I'm going through life. So if I love myself, then I'm going to do things to try to maximize my time here that I have on earth because it's short. And that goes into forgiving yourself. Like we all have regrets. We all have things that we're not proud of. if I were to look back on my life and the mistakes that I've made, I'd probably be a manic depressive person because, but hey, you just kind of let that stuff go.
Yeah.
And forgiving other people is just, hey, it's maybe I messed up in the past. Maybe they've done me wrong. Okay, am I going to learn from it, or am I going to carry that with me? Because, like I told you about the individual that I was talking with, and I informed him, I'm like, you do know that person probably sleeps just fine at night and does not remember doing you wrong. But yet you're carrying this throughout your day-to-day life. Who's winning here?
Yeah, well, that's what I always refer to as living rent-free inside my head. I don't let anyone else live rent-free inside my head. I'm curious, do you encounter clients who have a harder time forgiving themselves than forgiving other people? I know for me, it's easier for me to forgive other people often than it is for me to forgive myself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The vast majority of people I work with, the whole loving themselves and forgiving themselves is a huge, huge task because, like I said, I've worked with a lot of incarcerated individuals that have burned so many bridges, and they just really cannot see that you can live a productive life and move forward from this, but they're kind of stuck in that past. Well, I did this to so-and-so, I did this to so-and-so, and they just kind of get caught up in that spiral of just doom and gloom.
Right.
But for them to actually really focus on themselves, and it's really, really hard.
The ABCs are big. The three big loving and forgiving aspects come into play. If I'm coming to you for anger management, as I start to practice these things, as I start to notice these things, does it become easier for me to manage my anger? Or is the challenge just always going to be what the challenge always was?
Yeah, there's definitely a challenge component regardless. If you're trying anything new, because we're so used to our pre-wired and negative bias is how I put. We always go to the negative. We never go to the positive. We always assume the worst and rather than the best in situations where we have no idea how it's going to play out. And I tell people, like look at it like this: like, say you go to Vegas and you're gambling. Say you go to roulette wheel. You can bet black or red. You got a 50-50 shot of winning. That's the best odds you're going to get in Vegas. Same thing with positive and negative thinking. So why not bet positive and not rack yourself with guilt and worry versus automatically going to the negative? Well, this is going to happen. Like, you don't know. We have no control over those things. Right. Like a lot of people I've worked with, will make themselves sick, leading up to like a court appearance. I was like, why? Like, you have no control of the judge. You have no control over the lawyers. What's done is done. It's 50-50. You either bet on black or red.
So would you say that approaching life with a sense of allowing or accepting is the healthy way to approach things? Like, does that
Oh,
help
yeah.
you with anger management?
Oh yeah, acceptance is the name of the game. Acceptance is you have to accept that. I've learned in the past 3 or 4 years, I have to accept the fact that if I go through the drive-through, there might be one person there. So it might take longer to get my hamburger.
Right.
Except that, and I've been trying to educate my wife, which if you're familiar with somebody that's in the mental health game, your spouse does not want to be your client.
Right. Right.
She's like, I already got a therapist. I don't need you. But
as you approach life with acceptance and with love and forgiveness and with pausing and taking 90 seconds, this must get easier over time as it becomes more of a habit.
yeah, it's there's been a lot of great studies that shows that just the power of positive thinking actually rewires your brain so it happens quicker. It's not easy to begin with, but the more you do it, then the quicker it happens. And I'm a huge brain nerd when it comes to all that stuff, and I think the brain's an amazing thing, and I'm sure 1,000 years from now we will fully not understand the brain, but we're learning so much here now and in this time that our brain can actually, they call it neuroplasticity. Our brain changes. Our brain can remold itself. When I was coming up, and I'm sure like, hey, here's your brain. You lose brain cells and they're gone, and that's it. But in reality, guess what? It changes. It moves. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Along those lines, are there other practices that you try and engage clients in that help them with rewiring themselves? I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is meditation, because I know that meditation practice tends to rewire our brains. I'm curious if there are practices like that or anything else that you encourage clients to do.
Yes, meditation is huge. It's been practiced for thousands of years. Nobody understood why it works, but it just works. And then now with modern technology, we're finding out that, hey, it actually does make a difference. That, along with just breathing, sounds simple, but a lot of us, we don't breathe. And then they found out that, hey, there's this nerve that goes through our body. It's called the vagus nerve. It goes from our gut to our brain. And the more we breathe, the more it activates. And then that relieves a lot of our stress and our tension, and just overall gut health, probiotics, things of that nature. That's become a whole new field of study. But I mean, I'm here to tell you that there's a lot going on with your gut. Say, hey, go with your gut. Well, that's because that vagus nerve, and it goes straight to your brain. But I think that meditation, breathing exercises is huge. Like I said, it sounds very simple, but it works.
but highly effective. Yeah. I want to take a step backward to something you said earlier. You were talking about working with incarcerated people. And I'm curious if you find that incarcerated people have unique challenges or different challenges than people outside of the system have when it comes to experiencing anger, managing their anger, things like that?
I would say like the working with that population, unfortunately, they're exposed to it at a young age. And I don't want to say the downside isn't that great to them. It's kind of become a way of life. And if my father went down the same path, or my uncle or mom or whoever, it's just kind of rite of passage. It sounds bad, but I've dealt with a lot of people over the years that just in and out, just like to the point where I'm like, did you ever leave? It's just like, hey, here you go, take my class again. All right.
So are you suggesting that early childhood exposure to angry environments sort of enculturates people into a culture of anger?
Yeah. I know for me growing up, my father was very angry, very animated. Where that came from, I don't know. So we tend to emulate, our parents. So I thought that was the proper response to not getting your way. It's just being out there and just I've got memories of just doing silly stuff, being angry, and looking back, it's like, that was stupid. I did not have to act in that way, but who taught me? Well, here's my dad that's flying off the handle. He's grown a lot softer in his old age, so he's kind of mellowed out. But growing up, it was just I know, like we had season tickets to University of Tennessee for many years, and if UT lost, then you did not talk to my dad for at least 3 days. That was the environment that we grew up in. Right. So like I said, it's all learned behavior. It's all learned behavior, right. And then we can learn a different path.
But you seem like such a gentle and amiable type guy. Would you say that you had a problem with anger?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, my younger years, I like to work on cars and stuff, and I actually did welding for a while, and there was a few times where I would take a piece of metal and throw it against the damn wall, and just like I messed up a weld, and it's like, just throw it, and it's like, but now that, I've educated myself and chose to, go down a different path, looking back, it's, like I said, I don't like to look back, but I could have done things a lot differently, especially like relationships. I mean, that gets folded into all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm definitely at a better place in my life than I used to be.
Would you say that you apply the things that you teach other people to yourself? Like that's what helped you?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have my moments. I'm human. Just talk to my wife. But for example, like I came home from work one day. This kind of stands out, and I was sitting on the couch. I just got in from work, and I'm just like, just kind of tired. But I could just feel like something wasn't right. Like my body was just telling me like something's not right. Then wife comes in. Of course, want to talk about her entire day. I'm like, give me 5 minutes. Just let me just kind of decompress, and because I knew if I were to engage in the conversation, I would be short. I'd be kind of quick, and that was not going to end well for either one of us. So now she kind of understands. Hey, I get home from work. I got to decompress, and she calls it my woo-saw time. You need some woo-saw time? Yeah, just let me chill. But I made a mistake once early in our relationship, and she came at me and she was like, tell me about her sister and her boyfriend at the time. She ended up marrying him, and she's on and on. And I was just like, I came out with these words, and as soon as I said them, I was like, oh, no. I said, I don't care. Ooh, man. Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
So that took about a couple of hours of trying to make up, and I was like, I was just at that point, and I was like, I don't care.
So I have two questions that I ask every guest. And since you're here, you're on the hot seat, I'm going to pose them at you. The first one is, because the name of the show is Authenticity Road. What does the word authenticity mean to you?
Like authenticity would be, to me, would just be being your true self. It would be not allowing outside forces to dictate how you act or what you do. I've always considered myself a very a person who, does its own thing. I've never been into fashion or anything like that. Like, hey, this is me. Like, take it or leave it. Mm-hmm. Like, actually, when my wife, our first date, and I actually use this example in classes. I'm like, I showed up, I was wearing flip-flops, cargo shorts, t-shirt. And everyone's like, oh, why didn't you dress up? I'm like, hey, this is me. Like, if you don't like me in my normal attire, then you're not going to like me regardless. So just be yourself. And a lot of us, what we do is we try to put up these airs and all these fancy things. And, if you can't afford to, take your date to a fancy steakhouse, you can only afford McDonald's. Well, hey, if you're too good for McDonald's, you're too good for me. It's just be yourself.
The second question that I have for every guest is, what do you wish that I had asked you that I didn't? Or another way of looking at it is, because sometimes I'll get the answer, well, you asked all the questions that I can think of. But the other way to think of it is what is it that you wish that you had had the opportunity to say or the opportunity to talk about that you didn't?
The only thing I can think of is, if you think you need help, you probably do. Reach out. Don't be a alpha male. I'm not going to ask for help, and just let it build and build and build. Talking with me, talking with anybody is better than just allowing that to build and build and build until you lash out at your loved ones or the public. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to chat with somebody, like myself, and there's no judgment involved. Nobody has to know. And there's a big stigma about seeking out help. Nobody has to know. Just reach out and find whoever it is that you want to talk to, and just it's not near as bad as you think it is.
And someone doesn't have to be in your area of the country in order to reach out to you, right? You deal with clients from all over the world.
Yeah, that's a great thing about the virtual. We do it via Zoom. I've actually got a client right after this in California. I'm in Nashville. She's in California. So, yeah. So it's so accessible now to seek out help versus 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You got a phone, guess what? You can seek out help. And it doesn't have to be crazy expensive. I pride myself on keeping it dirt cheap because, not everybody has $150 an hour to talk to a therapist, but you can talk to somebody, get some education, and see where you want to go from there. So I'm definitely thankful for the internet and whatnot when it works.
When it works. If people want to reach you, what's the best way to locate you and contact you?
I'm very easy to get hold of. Just go to our website, freedomanger.com. Down at the bottom, you got my direct email address, james@freedomanger.com. Shoot me an email. We can do a assessment for free, consultation free, and just kind of, see if we got anything to offer you, see if we vibe.
And if folks want to catch up with your podcast, that is the Freedom from Anger podcast, correct?
Yeah. Just go to any of your major podcast distributors, Apple, Amazon, whatever, the Freedom from Anger podcast. And we put it out like on Spotify, so I gotta give them a plug. but yeah, it's out there. How
frequently do you release new episodes?
I try to do it weekly. I've kind of been slacking here lately. I've got probably 4 or 5 podcasts that I need to release. But yeah, I'm on Instagram and YouTube. It's it's Freedom from Anger LLC. I think it's both of them. And then Twitter or X or whatever it's called nowadays, it's Anger_LLC. So that's on there. I'm trying to get into the whole social media thing. I'm horrible at it. You might run across a picture of my dog or something on there.
Well, all of those links will be in the show notes so that folks can find you more easily. But James, I just want to say thank you so much for having been here today. I really appreciate you coming and spending time with us. It's a wonderful conversation. And I hope that we will get to spend time with you again sometime.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you want to come on my podcast, then I'm definitely more than willing.
That's awesome. Podcast swap. But all that having been said, I can see by the clock on the wall that it is time for us to end our time together. And so with that, it is time to throw the bags back into the jalopy and head back out onto the Authenticity Road. So on behalf of the show, I am Tor, and until we meet again, please be authentic. Goodbye. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope what you've heard will help you on the road to your personal authenticity.
Visit us at www.authenticityroad.online.